guys, thank you so much for joining me. Polina here, talking to you about your new year 2018. It is now the end of 2017, and if you're celebrating, it is up to you. But I have mentioned many times that the new year does not begin until the 21st of March, which is the beginning of Aries. So energetically, it does not really make sense to make any big go of it on the 1st of Jan. It makes absolutely no sense to start anything in Capricorn from scratch, unless you're really tuned in and you have a lot of planets there. So if you are, like me, not very Capricornian minded and don't have a lot of planets in Capricorn, perhaps it is time to listen out for new clues about yourself and not to commit to anything that is too harsh, anything that's too stressful, anything that's too strong for the year ahead. Another thing I'd like to mention is my almanac. So it's on sale. It'll probably be at a discount as the year of 2018 is almost upon us. So this book basically has all the shifts and all the changes within it, so you don't have to watch the videos, you can just have it on hand. It's a very nice manageable size, so you can carry it around. And it is very friendly. It's for the year of the dog, obviously, so it's got a really nice friendly feeling about it. So I hope that you like it. If you would like to know more about me, or if you want to navigate this video by the side, please click on the section below, as it will all come up in the caption section. Thank you very much. Okay, so starting with 2018, I have to tell you this. We haven't quite done what we came to do till Feb. We won't be finished. We will not be able to start anything new till March. I'm saying this again, yes, because we are still in the rooster year, Chinese Zodiac. So what we have to really do, what we have to really come to terms with is some truths about us. By the end of 2017, there should have been some big reality checks and some harsh, probably, or relieving, or both, coincidences and synchronicities that should have shown you who you were to be and who you are to us as collective people. You should have at least had a very clear understanding of where you weren't wanting to be anymore by the end of December, or like what sort of like irks you, or sort of like what doesn't feel right. And then by February 2018, you should have a very clear mind, perhaps by the time that we go into the dog year, as to what you really love, and what you really enjoy. This is a really fun-loving year ahead. It is really cultured. It is about culture, it is about feeling, it is about people, it is about you and me doing things together, it's about close proximities, it is about excitement, it is about joy. However, with the Jupiter in Scorpio and also Saturn right out of Sagittarius, in the end of Sagittarius here, we don't really want to know more than we have to. So if you're somebody who has been starved for attention and you're going, yay, dog year, that means I'm going to make more friends and I'm going to have a very easy time at work, that's not likely the case. So private versus public life has to be very strongly filtered for some of us. Anything that we say out loud, especially if we are a person who works with dreams, or we are a person who works with shamanism or healing modalities, we have to be very on point about trend. If we are marketing, I feel that we've got to really understand what other people want, but at the same time not scrutinize ourselves for who we've come to be. And either or, whether you're right or wrong, things will come together magically, I feel, in 2018. So don't worry if you let somebody down or something has disappeared, because usually in this type of energy, something will come up again. So expect miracle experiences, accept synchronicity as a truth of the universe. And also start looking out for those types of things and people and conversations and other interactions with others that are very good for you and that feel very nice. So the neatness, the feeling of joy, the feeling of glee, you know, the cuddle of life, the jolly feeling and energy. The jolly energy here in 2018 is a must to experience. So anything heartwarming, anything with others, and anything that makes you feel really accepted and unique is good. But if you haven't yet accepted yourself, And if 2017 has been spent like this, especially the beginning of 2018, where you didn't want to know anybody, you didn't want to know what people were saying about you, you don't want to feel who you are, you don't want to connect to what feels right or wrong, you're still in denial about anything, or you don't want to quit your job which is going nowhere and things like that, it is not likely that March will be an easy start. So before March, it will be really nice to connect and consider yourself, sometimes even more than other people. For some of us who are ready to speak the truth and are totally on point about who we are, it is a very, very easy time to start including others. And how do you know? How do you know? It is when you just want to call somebody and you just want to say a few things and you feel that just after a few moments the person is smiling, or there is something smiling between you two. So by the middle of December, those people who are natural born teachers and these people who are natural born healers and natural born connectors and people who are leaders should have already come out of the woodwork. So by the middle of December 2017, there should have been already kind of amazing lineup or an amazing energy for you perhaps, or others around you, as those who are just naturally comfortable with themselves and that are ready to lead will be told to, or would have been, elevated. And this is going to continue as a trend until I feel March, about the 13th of March 2018. There's going to be people that will early, before we really swing into the year of the dog, start coming up as leaders. And this is not perhaps for some people that perhaps do not want to do this yet, and that's fine. So if you are a leader usually and here you are cowering or you're not sure where to start, that's okay. Perhaps you've been offered more connections elsewhere, because some of us do not need to lead anymore. Some people are ready to retire. There are lots of us that I feel getting to a really nice quantum level where we don't have to do anything outwardly to show our light, and we connect to people outside of our circles, or we're ready to. And this is another thing, is loneliness, solitude, and any kind of isolation where leadership positions weren't really understood and don't really make sense, or it's not really worth it, it doesn't feel quite right. There is something not right about leadership and connecting with others if you're a natural born leader, or presume that you are. If you are in that type of situation, that's not too bad, so don't worry about it. Perhaps there's something more for you. So sometimes also natural born leaders are people that have been very dominant with others can be laid off during the year of the dog. So those people that have been given like the light sword, like being given like a certain type of mission or some kind of energy that supports them into leadership or supports them into some kind of power, occasionally, on occasion, during the dog year, will be put to the side if they're not quite ready yet. Another thing is we cannot rush anything, and if you're feeling that by March you still don't know who you are, you're still confused, and if you've got like sort of like a glazed energy about you going about through the day and you're not sure if you're awake or asleep, don't trust this frequency. So if you are feeling that you're glazed over and by the end of March you still don't really know where you're coming from and things do not make sense, you haven't had any returns from your year, you don't understand what 2017 has been about, and you still haven't got any clue about who you were and who you are becoming, this is really difficult, because some of us who still are glazed and we like sleepwalking, we're blinded by something, just walking around like this in our life, can get sucked into situations such as being, how can I say, a servant to someone else, giving somebody else too much time, giving a company or any kind of situation like that any power too much of your thought, giving people too much of your stuff, having to pay a lot of bills for living somewhere, having to be stuck into situations where you're paying for someone else's time, being given advice very strongly, or being pushed around by other people. So please, if you are still perhaps going around not sure where you are, not sure where you were, if something happened during 2017 that has swept you off your feet and you're still recovering, if there's been any painful conclusions, as it can be sometimes painful to look at yourself, as Rooster Year was truly about facing your shadows and facing your light and being able to speak out and being able to be free. And if you're still confusing yourself between different frequencies of yourself, where you're really, really confused as to what people are, who they want you to be, and you're still submitting a lot, then by the end of this transit, by March 2018, you shouldn't have to do a lot of things that you're still doing, if you are somebody who is working too hard, if you're somebody who is mending other people, if you're constantly consciously connecting to others to the point where you're losing your own light, 2018 will be very difficult for you after March. So if you are still before March and you're watching this, please try to understand where the lessons are, where the lessons were in 2017, what you lost, what you couldn't gain, what was right there in front of you but it faded out, or who was there teaching you something, or what went wrong. Anything like that should be left in the past by March, and you should not have to bother anybody about sad stories. This is another big trend. So sad stories, he said, she said, I would have been, she should have been, I had this mother once, you know, I had this partner, or I had this boyfriend, or, you know, something didn't work out, my boss yelled at me. All these sad stories of being the underdog for the dog year can sometimes create us into one again. So if you are able to, before March, and I know this is a really difficult task for some people, try to forgive, and give out all the debts, everything that you think you are not really willing to forgive, everybody that you thought was going to be there for you but they weren't there for you, anything to do with depression, suicide, all types of things with like wanting to leave situations prematurely, being afraid of another, being afraid of what other people think, feeling small in the game of life, feeling like an objectified energy, feeling like a nothing, feeling like a zero, feeling like a nobody. Everything like that should be done and dusted by March 2018. If you are not new to this, if you're not new to shadow work, or you're not new to any kind of self-worth restructuring, if you're not new to this, you can do it by yourself, but if you are somebody who really needs help, have a look. Perhaps there's starting with February, there might be some kind of circles and some kind of maybe groups or some kind of courses that are to do with self-esteem and raising your energy higher. Anything to do with self-esteem tapes, videotapes, and recordings would be very helpful to you if you still aren't sure where you stand with others. If you've got a continuous cycle before the year of the dog begins, where you are starting to kind of see yourself and somebody interrupts, or you are starting to have some free time and then suddenly your work piles up. If you still haven't got any time at home to be yourself, if your partner doesn't take care of the kids and you're the only one who's doing everything, or if you're the only one working for two, if you are, you know, in a one income family and you're constantly trying, and there's like a lot of strain and stress I'm feeling building up, especially for those people that haven't really been able to discover who they are for many years because they started a family, started a business, or they started a story that they can't end, and the story is beyond themselves. That's not true. This is not true. This is not the true state of a human being. Being stressed and at the end of yourself is not a true state of anybody, of anything. So if you can, please commit to yourself and do not try to do any more. So when 2018 really fully like starts the phase of the dog in March, you have got that really nice, maybe for some people conservative and still held together, and for some people very free and obvious way about who you are, who you were, who you'd ever be. So the golden mean of who you are, who you were. Perhaps for some of us it is remembering what we were like as a child. For some of us it is about perhaps past life regression and trying to sort of combine all the lost pieces of ourselves. For some other people it might be about time management and cutting out everything that you don't need to do but you're still doing because you think you've got to be a nice person. Anything to do with low income strategies, anything to do with making do, anything to do with doing things for free for other people, not knowing what they think about you, or do they even really care that you've done what you've done. Anything to do with work that doesn't suit you, that doesn't suit your spirit. Anything to do with having to do a lot of things for another who can help themselves but they can't be bothered. Anything to do with carrying others, that will increase. If you are not by March 2018 feeling you, what is you, who are you, feeling yourself and feeling your beauty in the world and feeling who you truly are, able to become also stronger with time as. So definitely cultivate you. It's a farming sign, the rooster. Cultivate you, culture you. It's like you are the soil, you know, the fertile ground for yourself perhaps. As you might see that by March 2018 you can start something that you could have started something that's really big and that can feed your whole family, or like feed your whole life without really having to strain. But for most of us, I feel also this is not possible, and this is not quite easy. We can take easy steps, we can take simple steps. For some people, maybe self-defense classes. For other people, it might be breath work and yoga. For other people, it might be joining a gym. For other people, it might be trying to make sure that everything is structured and everything has got its place. For others, it might be getting in touch with your ancestors still. So if you're somebody who's still trying to define your life through your mother or your father or whatever happened in your family, oh, this is definitely a year, the beginning of 2018, especially to stop these things, because quite often you'll see, and this is incredible, that we have a lot of damage and a lot of issues with our soul, with our lifetime later, if we're still damaging ourselves over and over through past life memories and through issues that we've had with our loved ones, family members and things like that, because these stories reoccur. If we still can't let go, we'll see that again and again with our children and our children's children and things like that. So definitely leave things behind. And also get in touch if you are still not able to see your way through. So all my details are in the caption section below. And let's start with the signs. Hello gorgeous Aries, thank you very much for joining me today. Polina here talking to you about you. If you missed the introduction, please watch it. This is a general introduction for the themes for 2018. And this is specifically for you, so you don't have to. You don't have to. If you've spent your last year wondering about who you were, and if you felt like you were interrupted by fate and things didn't work out, and you felt like maybe broken-hearted or, you know, kind of lost, if you're one of those Arian people, you don't have to. You don't have to succumb. So we are in the social year of 2018. It's a dog year. And this means that there is somebody special for you, or you're somebody special for somebody else, as long as you're true to you. You just got to be true. Basically, because of this, sometimes Aries don't understand where to go and where to be, because the platform is clear, it is high enough for you to just be you and just do exactly what you always have done, perhaps through centuries, through many lives. So Aries, have a look at how you can be perhaps arrogant about some things and very open about other things. Maybe you are very aggressive about certain types of things, and other things make you feel pure and joyful. So anything that is basic and anything that is strongly you should be approached with care, but also a little bit of caution as well, just to balance it out, because sometimes other people are not ready. But definitely have a look at situations in 2018 that are trying to subdue you. So subduing you, putting you in a little bundle, putting you in a little home, making sure that you don't show, making sure that you are sitting with the same people as you sat with for years and not really got to know yourself through them, or not gotten to do anything very exciting with them. So it is very likely for some of us Aries people to get addicted or to be an addiction for another person for some time. So this is a very interesting start of a cycle for friends and families. We are in a dog year coming. And this, to me, I feel is an important time to really sit and see. Like, stop yourself sometimes, Aries, and really see and feel and, you know, perceive what's there for me. What's there for me? Am I just treating water here with people? Am I doing chores for nobody? Does anybody actually stand over me here, or am I pretending that they are? Do I really have to clean and cook so much? Do I really have to stay at home and listen to my parents fighting all the time? Do I really have to try to create a certain type of story for somebody who doesn't believe in me? That's another thing. People don't believe in each other sometimes in 2018, if they haven't, like the year of the dog, I mean, if they haven't found themselves. They haven't found themselves, and they haven't really connected to what the truth in the future is for them. Occasionally people will not believe who the other person is. So don't take that too harshly, especially by the beginning of March, early April. You might see that people are taking offense for nothing, or there will be a few people with a change of your energetic field that will commit to you for no reason. People can do things altruistically for you, and of course on the other scale, people can be very rough and really cutting as well. So if you are receiving a lot of mixed messages from us, and especially if a person's been always nice and kind in general and then suddenly they turn, that's not okay. So you have to be very, very, very proud of your feet. You've got to be very, very proud of yourself, how you stand, where you go, where you walk. So you have to know that the door is always open and you can walk in or out anytime. Where you should be, you will be, you can be, just as long as you don't hold yourself chained, or how can I say, regimented to situations where you don't actually have any truth there. So definitely take a good look at us, take your time with us. So if I could really concentrate on anything here in this little reading for you, is time. How much time you spend with somebody without getting a result. How many minutes does it take you to do something? Would there be a more efficient way to do that? How can you start to lead, and how can you start to speak to people from a slightly larger platform? Because I feel that you can. I feel that if you really wanted to, you could clear things up a lot. You could organize a lot more, Aries, during 2018, and you could start speaking out and showing people where is what, because Aries are natural born leaders, of course. And if you aren't, so you've got, like, say, Pisces Ascendant, and you've got Cancer Moon, and there's lots of different things that are suggesting to you perhaps that you are not quite there, or you're not really meant to lead anybody, or you don't want to. Perhaps you have a 12th house sun and you're not sure as to what that means. That is all right. So if you're somebody who's quiet and subdued as an Aries person, this year 2018 can really dominate you if you don't know your center, if you haven't figured out by March 2018 you're with, and who you're working with. This is the thing, have a look around. What are people around you doing? What are they wanting? What is their life purpose? Does it resonate with you? Also consider who you always wanted to be. Did you always want to camp? Did you always want to go hunting? Did you always want to, maybe like a little village somewhere on the edge of the world? Did you want to be free? Did you want to be amused? Did you always want to just like wear funny colors and say hello to people on the street? Or did you always want to be an executive that follows nobody and just makes their own stand? Have a think about where it's been all along, because if you're not sure, like us, about who you are, sometimes we can't tell who you are, and in this type of energy we may not be able to tell you apart from other people, which is really difficult to see. Start walking towards you, and do not mention to anybody also like the curse of your lifetime. Oh, you know, oh woe's me, I never been able to fall in love, or like, oh woe's me, I never really got over my high school crush, la 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 la. That's not going to help you, but what will is action and force. Action, force. Let's go for a kayak, let's just go for a drive. I'm going to go for a drive by myself, you're not going to come with me. The thing is to go through this barrier and this kind of murmur with people very quickly when you're seeing no result, to be the one pointing up, to point up and to suggest to a person another peak. If you are, for example, a motivational coach or some kind of a teacher, this is a beautiful year for you. So becoming somebody who is very, very enlightened, perhaps enough to take a whole class or to take many, many people forward, is a very, very good time to start with that, especially if you are not usually motivated, unless you really don't want to be there. So it's a really, really interesting time to begin futuristic ideas, to begin, how can I say, giving people more credit, giving people more time, also employment of people, employing many people to do different things, being the one with the cards or being the one with the credit card, being the person who's in power, being the person who calls the shots, and being the person that pulls people out of the crowd, becoming more confident. And to some of us this will seem arrogant, but if people are looking at you and they're considering you a narcissist or arrogant person, person or a person driven by depleting things like success and income. You know, like some people might look at each other in a very, very strong and judgmental way if they themselves haven't received a lot of purpose in the last rooster year and they haven't been able to say who they are. So do not worry, and definitely definitely don't get stuck anywhere boring. This is the thing, don't get stuck in boring places, Aries, please, because during the year of the dog it might be very easy to just cuddle up with somebody and watch a lot of TV, Netflix, and chill. Try not to worry about what other people are doing, and also you might need to save somebody. If you've got somebody who's a relative or a friend who's just sitting there on their butt and they're just flicking through the channels, or they're not doing very much with their life, it is okay to try, and if you're feeling strong enough to trust yourself to make a few calls, but they have to be action. They shouldn't be just sitting there and listening to another person, because during this type of year, I feel you have a lot of smarts and wisdom, but sometimes it can't be expected to resonate with true meaning and feeling through word. Occasionally you just got to grab them and go somewhere. Come on, get dressed, we're going to the movies. Like, yeah, we can watch TV, but we'll go and do it at the movies. And then the next time maybe you take them to the beach, and maybe the next time you go camping together. So having a look at how you can motivate another being is an incredible thing. Feeling and close relationships are on the go, but do not trust when you are being put into a situation that feels like an incubator. Like you can't just be strong. Anything womb-like you are inside a womb and you're kind of swimming around there with this person or these people that don't actually really matter and don't want you to matter either. So definitely don't take any crap from anyone, and start over. If you wanted to do something new by the 21st of March, it should be here and pure. So in March, if you follow my broadcast or you follow my almanac, you might find there are certain types of zones where you are safe to be yourself, and totally good to consider slowly and feel and create and connect. But then there will be bursts of light where you just have to go. So how to ride those waves perfectly is all in here, and I will also be doing free broadcasts all through the year. So have a look at my blog. It's all in the caption below. Thank you very much, Aries. Hello, awesome Taurus. You are really awesome. 2018, I feel, will give you a lot. If you are, like myself, prepared, you have to be prepared. I feel, Taurus, you know that sometimes there's going to be an urge. If you're not sure about what this year is about, have a look at the collective insights in the beginning of the video. But if you just want to talk about you, that's also fine. The urge. There is an urge in 2018 that I feel will sweep you off your feet if you're not ready. So, for example, if you are feeling that there should be more and you're hungry for something that you're not sure, prepare for the floodgates. It is a silent prayer that you have, I feel, this year. That is very, very on point, and it is very, very silent. So if you've been expecting something and you've been kind of praying, you've been kind of holding on to a feeling or a truth about yourself and about the world, don't worry. Stay centered, but start putting things away. For example, putting money away. If you've wanted to move for a long time but you haven't moved from your house, design a scheme for evacuation. So when you do move, it is easy and quick, because change can come like a gush during 2018 for you, Taurus, I feel, and things can shift a lot. So if you are somebody who is always thinking about something, always wondering about something, there is an itch that you're scratching a lot, or there is like a part of you that's always wondering about a part of world that you haven't seen, or the type of maybe perhaps teacher that you haven't yet met, or the type of beautiful person that you haven't still connected to or are disconnected from still. Stop wishing and start wondering why you think of those things. And where your mind goes naturally, there's a lot of light, and I feel that people are picking up on that, and it's like the collective is praying for you. So if you've been somehow discarded or disguised as somebody unworthy for a long time, you haven't received enough from the world, or you've been depleting yourself, especially if you've been in depletion for a long time, as we've got Jupiter in Scorpio and is going to swing the other way in the last segment of the year. So after the equinox is going to swing into a different scheme. So have a look, because perhaps you've been missing out. And what is going to likely happen, I feel, with a lot of Tauruses, is the pendulum is going to swing, and there's going to be a sudden opening where there was none. So don't get too bogged down. Don't get too bogged down to anybody or anything, especially if you feel like, okay, this is what I kept for a long time, or this is for keeps, or this is just going to stay with me, even though perhaps I don't want this. It is quite all right. Because you might need to switch a lot of lanes during 2018, and I feel that you might need to throw out a few things to be able to accept other things. In my almanac there's a few ideas and kind of like mystery solved, but also I will be here on YouTube and in my blog, if you have a look at the caption below, helping you along with this and making sure that when the switching of the lanes come for Tauruses, or where there's going to be suddenly an abundance scheme opening, or there's going to be an evacuation scheme needed, or there's going to be something in and something out really fast, that you're prepared for it. Another thing for 2018 is not to bother and hurt people, Trust your thoughts and the dreams that you have and the different ideas that you hold inside. By 2018, should be obvious to you, and you don't have to, how can I say, you don't have to pull on other people's lives and ask them to continue things for you, to work something out for you, or to bring to you peace, because sometimes in such a year, in a dog year, people don't know how. They know how to set up a room, they know how to invite friends over, they know how to get a cup of tea on the stove, you know, they know things like that. They know how to make a party unforgettable. They know how to create business with one another, but they might not know how to deal with a really, really big, perhaps, like say, mental illness, or to lead a person from dark into light very, very carefully with a lot of love. And yes, perhaps with Jupiter and Scorpio, it does seem to me that some of us will expect or suspect that gurus and people who are leading others are going to really know what they're doing, but because it's a dog year, some of us will not know. So for Tauruses, it's very important to have your own back, and have a backup plan. Credit cards, you know, if you still need to pay for any debts, just release. Anything to do with packed things. For some reason I'm seeing boxes and a lot of things packed away. Things that are manageable. So for example, if you are on a very tight string or at the edge of something, by the middle of 2018 there should be an obvious edge with things, and you see, okay, this has come to an end, this timeline probably will never repeat, or this kind of thing will probably never happen. So you're seeing that there is an edge, or you're walking the line. It is good to quickly know how to get from one lane into the other lane, so from one reality to the next reality. So good to be prepared, good to have stored up food, and you might actually receive a lot of people that are coming in from other places that perhaps do not know you, but they have something maybe to give, but at the same time they also want to take from you. So if you have somebody who is suddenly homeless who's related to you, or if you've got people knocking on your door with something, very, very carefully consider them. And if you are comfortable, of course, because you've got to be, provide, because I feel that if 2018 is lived correctly, like with pride and self-completion, like you're honest and sovereign with yourself, but you also have, you know, enough contemplation about others, and you have enough balance with the outside world to give to another out of heart and out of innocence and out of grace for a long time, that will give you back. So that's a little secret. And it's not about pushing on reality, like giving because you think you're going to get 3 times more. It's more about knowing that sometimes, especially when we really need it, to give to a person who's really needy is to receive 3-fold later, or to receive a ton more than you've expected to receive karmically. So giving into us, giving people, how can I say, reason as well. Being the person who's reasonable in the group is very important. Having an extra space for people to stay. When you are looking around the room and you say, okay, this person's going to end up drunk, or I need to call this person a cab, or you're holding a party or an event or somebody else's and you're not sure as to the relationship between a couple of people, like you're seeing one of them as vulnerable, that's going to, I feel, become perhaps norm for you if you're freaking out about others. But if you are, how can I say, on the ready side, so you're ready in case of something happening, that I feel will give you a lot more strength and agility later in life, and it will stop you from worrying about circumstances. So it will stop any kind of paranoia or divination from your peace, and you will just know. So it's almost like an automatic response. I know what to do, you know, I'll take care of it. So interesting time for paramedics and shrinks. and people that work with the law. Also incredible time for anybody who touches other people's lives constantly as part of their job or part of their life story. If you are somebody who's a Taurus that is on the verge of tears, like say when you're watching something on TV, like if you're really, really empathetic and you're really like a bleeding heart, this is not good. This is not, how can I say, this is not going to be easy to integrate later. But if you're somebody who's calm and feeling relaxed within yourself, but you are ready in case somebody needs something, that's really great. A new thing also for 2018 is not to take care of anybody on purpose for a long time. So once the situation gets real, you're there, but not to provide care for someone on purpose, meaning not to carry anybody, not to hold on to anybody who needs care because you're used to it or they're used to it. Also any kind of parasitic relationships with folks that are continuing on, like they just come over to eat your food, or they're just sitting there on your couch having nothing to say to you, but they like watching your TV, that has to end. And also perhaps a new thing for Tauruses is be kind to you first and make sure that you yourself are fulfilled, so that when you're giving to other people, especially new people, that will perhaps define you as the giver very quickly if you give too much and too often. Whenever you are defining another also, watch out for giving too much and not being in balance with give and take. Watch out for not wanting to take, but taking anyway as well. So not really being hungry at a party, but out of anxiety eating a lot of chips and dip, or drinking a lot in excess without really knowing the measure. So the other will be a force of provision and a force of taking. Sometimes they need, sometimes they give, but it is really, really important this year to balance out your needs and to see who you are inside. Thank you very much, Taurus, and I hope you have a wonderful 2018. Hello, beautiful and sexy, productive and incredible Gemini. Okay, so 2018 doesn't give a lot to those that can't argue sometimes. It is a really funny little line here that is not to be crossed as well. So you are balancing on a walking rope between good and bad guy, probably quite a lot in 2018, but you have to, because sometimes you've got to cuddle and love, and occasionally when things get uneasy or things get spiky, you've got to spike back or spark, especially when somebody else's life is involved. So if you're somebody in a collective of people in the family and things get silly and people show a lot of teeth, or people cross the line, you've got to be careful about this, but there's got to be a part of you that knows what to do, and sometimes people won't like you. Oh my gosh, Gemini, sometimes people don't like you, so that's okay. Prepare not to be liked, but trusted, respected, and connected to the collective. So having more of a platform, having more of a resonance with other people, having more friends, maybe instead of having one or two very close, quickie, cuddly buddies, having maybe one or two groups that really, really crave you. So whatever you've done in the last 4 to 7 years, like with people, that will likely grow a lot during the dog year. Another few things for you, Gemini. Don't collect anybody that you don't want to be like. This is an interesting thing. So you can, for example, collect many people, many of us that don't have any time or consideration for you or your craft. You can have people in lots of different situations and lots of different walks of life, and sometimes a Gemini can pride themselves on it. You know, it's like, well, I got lots of different friends and I got lots of different interests, but at the moment, because we're in a dog year, it might not give you a lot in the end. So this is going to be hard, is to define for yourself your own time and to define how you'd like to spend it. Who is the more respectable person? Who is the more promising energy? What is growing? What is going somewhere? Trends. Who's on trend in a sense? I know it sounds very shallow, but at the same time, it is not so much in the vicinity of heart, in the vicinity of keeping things around for a long time. It will not give a lot if you are really attached to somebody, even though they're hurting you or they're taking but they're not giving. It is not going to give a lot of life and give a lot of care if you are touching someone's life whom you know in secret. Secret love affairs and being in secret communion with people, being in secret communication isn't going to give anything. So have a look at where you are. For example, if you are in the medical field, and I know this sounds very dry and not very sexy, I know, Have a look at who else you can recruit as a friend, who's really, really nice, really considerate, really, really gorgeous person, but also knows a lot about what you want to know about. Exchange of information is very, very important, and I feel that it could be worth its weight in gold, even though information is not weighed. But you know what I mean? Like, you have to give and take with consideration for your time, because during this type of year you can grow and grow. You can grow a really big company from a very small one. You can grow a very, very easy to follow instruction manual from just a tiny little interest. You can grow a community of people that will work like for free. They will create their own village, you know, they will create a whole beautiful new world with you in it, if you just put the right people with the right people, you know. So if you look at yourself, you might see that there is a dominant part and a submissive part, and very often with Gemini, by the end of this year, so by the end of March 2018, and I'm talking about the energetic year. If you haven't watched the beginning of the video, Collective Insights, have a look. If you haven't got enough consideration for the part that feels lost, sometimes the part that feels larger, like the twin, because you are the twins, you're the Gemini, will take on a lot of credit for something that it hasn't done or something it doesn't want to do, and can get itself into funny situations. Try and see which are the right and the wrong responses, which are the clear and the not so clear wishes and dreams, and what twin or what part of you, Gemini, as you are two energies in one person, really wants what. And after you define it, by the end of March, you might actually want to start something. You might want to start something with that which feels totally right and totally you. So if you are somebody with a Jekyll and Hyde type of personality, and you've got many different things running around, you've got many different selves, it is really good to continue what you're doing, but also to see which side wants what. And then when you figured yourself out, by the end of March 2018, you might want to start a business, or you might want to start a much bigger scheme, and maybe in April perhaps, as we are in Aries, that will give you a lot faster, much wider result than before. So aiming for height, aiming for largeness, aiming for something that was only a part of you to become way bigger than it was, basically. So those little insights, those little twinklings, those connections to God, or connections to a certain type of medium, type of knowledge, or type of system, if they're in the heart and there's a truth to it, you can blow it up really big. But you've got to be considerate also about us and where we do and do not stand. So for example, if you've got music in your blood, and there's a lot of feeling of the end, like, I can't make money with this, you know, this is not going to start anything. Have a look how much you give to it, how much you think about it, what is your daily progress with yourself, how much of yourself do you give to this medium, how much of you is inside that interest. And then if you see that there is a lot, give it more. But if you actually see that it is dying down and there's something else that is born, that is larger, or there is perhaps even someone else, a certain group of people that has got nothing to do with music, that is a lot more clear and more interesting to you, then perhaps music is not it. So have a look which of your interest is bigger. So if you choose music, for example, if you feel it's definitely it, have a look at how maybe other people are contributing to you. So if you've got a best friend that tells you you're never going to work as a musician and that it is a dead scheme, take this person out, at least for a while, just for a while. If you've got somebody who comes to you and they perhaps are a stranger, or a person who also plays in a band or something like that, and they really, really commemorate you, and they really, really elevate you for being a musician, they're really interested in your special touch with music, it's a very interesting idea to befriend them further. So this is about strategy. It's about being strategic with your time as well, strategic with how you use yourself with different groups, and to have a look also at this need to cuddle. The need to cuddle is strong. Quite often for a Gemini it will be somebody or like a group of people that is the opposite to them. So this need to communicate with somebody who doesn't trust you, or the feeling of wanting to be with a person who doesn't understand what you're talking about. So the need to be with a person from a different religious group, from a very, very different way of life, a completely different interest is, for some of you guys, the must to experience. It's a must to experience, but for many others who have finally figured out what their dream is, and they finally have succumbed to a total understanding of where they would like to be in the next, like, say, 10 or 20 years time, because sometimes there's these windows open for Gemini where they see the ultimate for themselves. It is not so good to continue on pushing in the wrong direction, or pushing in a direction where you're not accepted, or there's a lot of lack, there's not enough self-worth, there's not enough communication, and the person that you're choosing and the people that you're walking with are not really there to fulfill, but they're rather there to detach you from who you are. Another thing for Geminis is not to remember things badly. So for example, if you've had a few years with certain types of people, and especially if they're conducive to your growth, and you sort of like become really, really detached from yourself through these types of people, or you feel really, really unwelcome, or really disconnected from yourself through these types of groups, it's really a good idea to condone no more time to these things. So give no more time to others, and give more time to thoughts that are positive, that are optimistic, and that are conducive to your preferred experience here. So for example, if you've had a bad time with a certain type of group, or a certain type of look of a person, or a certain type of cliche, it is not easy to then, for example, structure your life with the feeling of depth or disconnection or dishonor that perhaps doesn't actually exist, it just exists within you. So anything that is classist, or gender biased, or race biased, or any kind of like specification that makes you feel really unjust and not trustworthy, or not being able to give another person trust, that should be abandoned, or at least put away, because I feel that you might see that a lot of your worth and a lot of your progress actually is not able to beautifully bloom with people this year in 2018 if you're still holding a grudge, if you're trying to define a certain type of person, especially if you, for example, are against a certain group of people, and perhaps even your art or your project or something is against the government, or against a certain type of nationality, or against a certain type of stereotype. So have a look, Gemini, at how you stereotype other people, and what you would and wouldn't want to do yourself during this year, because you can really step on your own toes if you are keeping on giving some people credit and taking the credit away from others, and also if you're finding yourself intimidated by certain groups of people but not others. So have a look at your open heart, Gemini, and try to connect to the bigger picture. Thank you very much, and I hope you have a wonderful 2018. Hi Cancer, thanks so much for tuning in. Polina here, talking to you about your year 2018, just the main few trends that are happening. If you missed out on the first video, on the first segment of this, have a look at the collective trends in this video, and perhaps see what's up for the rest of us before March 2018, especially as we do start the new year on the 21st of March when we hit Aries. So this is a very, very special year for you if you want to work, if you want to work out, if you want to work things through, if you are not afraid of getting your hands dirty, if you want to suddenly step up and say, yeah, I can, or like if you wanted to step up and say, yes, I want to. So volunteer positions, anything in the media, anything in any type of self-expression platform, anything at all for you could be very, very simple and easy, Cancer, if you are interested, if you are, like, in a sense, dying to meet the new better version of you, the new optimistic, the new altruistic, the new friendly and fun-loving version. But however, this can take many, many different forms. And if you're carrying somebody for no reason, or if you get very offended by somebody who is kind of like feeding you work, and if you have a sort of like a Jekyll and Hyde personality about somebody, you don't really feel like you trust somebody, but at the same time you are clinging to them for work or for some kind of situation. And if you are not somebody who is open and free in the heart, but yet you want to give, or you want to show, or you want to show up, this is very hard. So for many Cancers, there will be definitely a time in 2018 where you feel like you want to give the world to another. There might be a lot of times during this year where you might get sparked up and doing the same thing, expecting a different result, which is a sign of madness. So if you're doing something for the same group of people or the same person over and over, for them to notice you, stop. So that's a big glitch for Cancer in general, giving without return. So have a look as to why perhaps you are maybe even starting to, by December 2017, to provide and to give and to listen and to love and to see something or somebody that doesn't really give a lot of worth to you later. So how to give, how to platform, how to go with this incredible gush of the heart during this year. I feel that for Cancer it is very, very nice and lovely to conclude things that weren't working before. So by March 2018, you should at least see what didn't work and never could work and be at peace with that and start a new beginning after. And by April 2018, you should be off. So definitely very, very nice to consider other people. Very good year to be making, baking, home giving, nursing, cradling, loving, caring, mentoring, looking out for juvenile peoples, being the person who creates a home or creates a special type of house for certain type of stuff, working with homeware, but more creating a type of hub for people to enjoy the comfort and the feeling of home or belonging without you needing to be too high or too low. So Cancer is still experiencing big highs and big lows due to Pluto going through Capricorn, and when Saturn goes through Capricorn as well, Cancer is going to have a very hard time, I feel, contributing without expectation. No more expecting. So have a look at what is joyful and free. Have a look at the paperwork. Have a look, especially when Saturn goes into Capricorn. What is your worth in a situation? What are you expecting to find there, and what are you not being able to generate? So for example, if you have a certain contract, if you're meant to be paid by the hour, or if you get a certain other type of salary structure, if you get enough from this or not, have a look at who shows up to your situations. Have a look at what you don't think is happening, but you're still expecting it to, wanting a result that is not going to be. So have a look at why you're doing this. How come you are still experiencing perhaps trauma from getting the same response from people? How come you are still going to directions that are not bringing fruit? And why is it so important to be the Messiah? To be the Messiah, or the person who suffers for others, and also any person that carries a cross for other people. If you are still doing that, Cancer, get off that bus, get off that boat. You don't need to carry any more people, but the feeling of giving is real, it is freeing, and I think it is very karma reconnection. It's like a karmic reconnection. It's trying to do a lot, sometimes for another, out of a gush of inspiration is really nice, but also consider if sometimes your gush is from separation and not from inspiration, because it can add more karma to your plate. And this can create a very interesting cycle where people don't want to, but perhaps they misuse you or put you in very weird places and things. So definitely, Cancer, have a look at the incentive, with the energy signature behind why you want to be there, why you want to show up, why you want to talk to someone. What are you trying to prove? Are you still manipulating somebody, or do you still want somebody to feel hurt or to feel dispatched by your gifts? Another thing that I feel Cancer will not see perhaps in 2018 is money, or situations of connection to wealth and higher grids, or like higher manifestation grids, if they don't want to admit that they want it. So for example, if you're somebody who says, don't worry about me, I don't want the money, or I don't want you to be uncomfortable, I just want you to be comfortable, I don't want anything from you, when you actually do, have a look at your contracts and how you expect, what you expect, and what you're trying to deliver also. So for example, if you're someone who paints, and you know that the painting is worth $1,000, but you are somehow seeing that the friend that you're selling it to isn't probably going to pay that much money, and you sell it to them for $300, but then at the same time you're kicking yourself. You have to find some kind of center with that. You have to find some kind of balance where you're no longer underselling yourself and you're no longer feeling grief for doing something you didn't want to do. Another thing for Cancer is children, kids, any kind of communication with young adults or people that feel younger to you. It is not so good to give time if you don't want to be there. So if you are huffing and puffing, you're feeling frustrated, as you might be feeling very frustrated with us on many levels during this year, do not give your time. If you are looking at your clients, if you're a Reiki healer, and they're in a sense a child to you, they're learning from you, or they're expecting you to be almost like a guidance for them and some kind of a cleansing energy, and you're looking to them as a lower person, and you don't have a lot of respect for them, or you feel annoyed that they actually approached you for the session, anything like that, stop. If you're annoyed at your customers, especially if you're a spiritual healer, if you're an energy coach, if you're any kind of person who's in some form of dominion or caregiving for other people, and you're looking at them and you're like sighing, you just want them to leave, that is not a good thing. That is not a good thing. It is not a spiritual thing. It is not a good thing. So have a look at how you can be pleased and level with things, not to go out too far, not to how can I say, include other people because you think that they're very, very perhaps orientating for you as to where you want to be, kissing people's butts and trying to please another is not very good here. But also have a look at where you want to be in the future through your own worth, without having anybody else to answer for it. So for example, what's likely here is people coming up to you and offering you things. I feel that 2018 is really, really filled to the brim with opportunities for Cancers actually. But say for example, if you don't trust this person yet they are where you want to be, and you snicker behind their back, or you don't give them any trust, and you feel that they're themselves inappropriate while they are climbing the ladder where you want to stand, that is not so good. So have a look at how you can be more emotionally and mentally independent from other people's sort of like time and what they do with it. What another person does is not anybody else's business. So we all have to remember that during a dog year, because it's very, very molding. It sort of like pushes us all together into a bouquet of people where we sometimes can find each other but also lose ourselves. So for Cancer, it's a very important time to hold your ground, but at the same time not to be somebody who holds it in a resentful or angry or how can I say, too much of an emotional way. So definitely bring up the phone numbers, bring up the people, bring up the types of practitioners and the types of groups that can help you deal with these things. So it's also not good to fester. If you did decide that somebody did you wrong and you're feeling really upset about somebody, or you don't want to take on a responsibility or an opportunity because you don't feel you trust the people, or you're judging the company, or you can't work with somebody, that's also possible. Having unusually annoying co-workers during this time in a company where you really want to be. If you're somebody like that and you're in between and in the middle and not sure where you belong, and you're feeling infuriated by certain things, have a look at how you can have some kind of ground control. So ground control to Major Tom during 2018 for Cancer. Have a look at who you have beside you who can deal with this, but do not go overboard giving all this information and all this like say energetic currency or energetic frequency to somebody who really just wants to live their own life. If a person is signed up for some kind of guruship I suppose platform, if somebody works as a psychologist, or somebody works as an astrologer, or somebody works as a psychic or anything like that, a doctor or what have you, and somebody who is there to give you support, have a look. Perhaps have us in your diary, have us on your phone, the numbers that you can call. So when you are feeling like really unnurtured and you can't really believe how much perhaps you've given somebody and how little that you've received back, and you don't know why things happen the way they have, don't strain yourself. So basically call somebody up and do this as quickly as possible so that you don't have to spend too much time loitering around in your memories and feeling unwelcome or unsure, because the year goes on. And I have to say, this is the best part of this year, the pearl in 2018, is responsibilities that lead to greatness. Things can happen that give you a lot. You can build very quickly, you can create huge things, you can monetize something that you've only done for yourself. You might meet the right person during this year. You might meet many different types of people that can give you a lot of energy and a lot of healing and a lot of trust. So have a look at how you can take care of those opportunities without melting down. Thank you very much, Cancer, for wonderful 2018, and I'll see you next time. Bye. Leo, wow, thank you very much for being here. Wow, 2018. is not what it seems. I feel that a lot of people will tell you that it is about freedom, it is about reconnection, it is about color, it is about brightness, and on the outside it is. I feel on some level it is, for you guys, a very, very kind of like social, outgoing, almost an Aquarian year. I feel that for you though, it is not really about that. It is about setting up and doing the groundwork and perhaps writing things down, creating sequences, doing things behind the scenes, and creating more purpose and more creativity out of the backlog of things that you haven't yet released, using your old ideas, using your old knowledge, having a look at what you've spent the last 3 years sweating over, your projects, if you're a musician, find your lost tracks, old records, everything like that. So you can actually elevate here a lot further than before by trusting your previous instincts and creating a beautiful color wheel that looks brand new. But I feel that a lot of these ideas, even though astrologers and esoterics will say they are possible to just reap as if from the trees, like apple from the trees, it is not just an apple from the tree. I feel it's been ongoing, and I feel that a lot of the best stuff that you've done over the last few years has the potential to be your new future and the bridge between you before and you in the future. If you have the opportunity to really shed the husk from the grain and see the true potential of your work. So have a look at your portfolio, have a look at how you've been, what you've done, and what you've discarded, as perhaps people weren't ready for it before. So you might have had a few futuristic ideas on life, futuristic ideas on any kind of media, on any kind of art, and any kind of platform. You might have had ideas that weren't able to grow last few years, and here they just take, it's like you put the seeds in the ground, they just flourish. So from the old, from behind the scenes, from before you were famous, you know, from before you did what you did, you might actually find that, for example, your childhood interest, so for example, you did collage, and now you are a fashion designer, really works. So you're taking your interest from, say, when you were 12 years old, and you're applying it to your mission that you've had since you were like 18. And you can create a lot of backlog that you've had for many lives, maybe of different interests and bits and pieces, into gold, if you're able to circulate the energy fast. This is hard. So for Leo, sometimes it's hard to be this year a conservative. It's like a conservative concentration of power and greatness, but at the same time someone who has the agility and the know-how and the wit to pull out one of your old cards and put on the table when the time is right. So opportunity and dreams can come true, but you've got to be on the pulse. It's like you've got to be on the pulse. You've got to feel the pulse of what is around you, what is coming through. And when it is time, when it feels organic, when it feels right to pull up that trump card. All the trumps are already there for most of you guys. Most Leos have already created what they needed to create, at least inside here. They already kind of know how this year is going to go, which is quite interesting. It's already being planned, it's already being put together. The main thing here is not to blush. Not to blush when you make the wrong move, because sometimes we can think, as people in general, okay, it's time to bet, or it's time to pull out that trump, and sometimes it is not the trump card moment, sometimes it is not, and sometimes it is slightly too late or too early, and people don't understand. So if you are somebody with a lot of Leo action and you are wondering, when should I try, when should I do this, when should I do that, the almanac that I've written for this year is quite good for that, or my daily blog, which is indeed free. This should at least give you some kind of sort of indication or some kind of feel for when it is good to launch your ideas and to launch these campaigns that you've been waiting for, maybe perhaps even for some of you guys your whole life. The most interesting thing is cruel and unkind things, cruel and unkind people terribly resist, usually, and during this time sometimes these people can turn around. That's a very, very strange feeling. So somebody who's hurt you before, somebody who's been not a fan of your work, somebody who has given you no space and time, somebody who has closed the door in your face, can sometimes come out of the woodwork and say, come on, you're coming with me. So that's something that is quite interesting to see. So for a lot of Leos, you might see that, for example, you had a purpose and you really wanted to shine with this purpose, or you really wanted to be with this person, and it didn't work out, and it was just like a door in the face, and suddenly it seems that all the doors are open and everybody's welcoming you, including some of the people or some of the platforms and even studios and collaborations of people that are suddenly open to you. But don't be mistaken for someone who comes back crawling. This is the thing. Occasionally during these types of years, you can come back and you might look very guilty, like a beaten animal. So it's like you're coming back into a story, so you're coming back to an ex, so you're coming back to, for example, a community of artists, and you might feel lowly. Be really careful of that. So if you are coming back to a certain situation which before was a door in the face, make sure that you've got trumps in your hand. Make sure, and that you don't succumb to any kind of lowly situation where you're letting other people ride you, and especially copyright. Copyright your stuff like no tomorrow. Copyright, you know, see how you can get it stamped, see how you can get it obviously your work, and how you can put your photo pretty much everywhere on what you've done. And for example, if you're producing music, have a look at how you can launch your music as you, for many of you guys, so you have your actual name and surname next to your work, or you have absolutely no qualms about saying this is mine from 2 years ago, that's mine, this is mine. So basically you have to stand by your energy, you have to stay close to your center, and you've got to also expect sometimes people to shove you along and try to do something similar themselves. And this is not easy for 2018, but what is very easy is to start seeing that the book that you've written 3 years ago is selling like hotcakes. You know, it's very nice to see perhaps that the grandma, you know, from your childhood that used to tell you off all the time, suddenly is very proud of you when you launch your new album. So it is quite nice. It is a bittersweet, it's a bittersweet situation for you guys, Leos, because you can see that perhaps your progress is vast, and you are twinkling and sparkling, and you're like the new colorful dream for others. You are like the beautiful you, or the beautiful perhaps man or woman in someone's dream, and you have a lot more focus of people towards you, like faces turning towards you and seeing what you're going to say, what you're going to do. But consider this a temporary thing, and do not get proud or too big-headed over anything. So I would say definitely during this type of year, you have to have your own back. So you have to be prepared for people to turn or to disappoint you. When you're signing a contract, for example, you're signing with a label, you're signing with a brand, you're signing your invention away, take a look and a feel. See how you can copyright everything as just yours. See how you can really vibrate the obvious you, and how you can basically pee on every tree like a dog. What I mean is, show up for yourself. Be the only person that's done this, or the first person that's done that. So you've got to really show up and be your own sovereign person. And anything that you can see going wrong, this is the thing. I'm sorry, this heads up for 2018. Anything you see going wrong. So for example, you are in a company and you've been there for only a year. You're seeing that suddenly your boss turns around, things turn around, and there will be probably a co-worker or like next in line, like a manager, and they're growling at you, or they're looking to you with disrespect, or they don't believe that your work is really your work. That's really interesting for Leos during this year, that people might not believe that you actually pulled the rabbit out of a hat that much. Take your steps very carefully. So when you are seeing that something is growling at you, and something is putting a certain type of almost like a cage around you, and if you're not sure about some kind of contracts, and if you're not sure about how you fit into a company and what is happening with your ideas and your intellectual property, I would definitely say to Leos, take your time, stamp things, copyright, be careful, be organized, and also recording devices. If you're ever in a situation where somebody's growling, if you're ever in a situation where your boss pulls you aside and says something inappropriate, because the power play here can be very strong, very nice to report, very nice to record, very nice to be in the know, and very nice to be prepared. Not to get you, how can I say, feeling humiliated about people or anything, but occasionally we don't know what you've done, and some people will not believe that it is your work sometimes, because you might have a floodgate of stuff come through, and people will not understand that you've actually done this work, or that you actually have been the only person that has been able to reach a certain height. And the truth is, it is all, of course, blood, sweat, and tears. But before this year, you might not have been confident enough to present it. So have a look at how this abundant year treats you. Definitely think of yourself as the leader, or the first, or, you know, the grace, or the energy that leads. You know, you don't have to succumb to anything, Leo, and trust your gut. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful 2018. Hi Virgo, thank you so much for joining me. Polina here, talking to you about 2018. Okay, whoa, what a race. A race. You might feel like there's a race against time, or a race against something, but sometimes you don't need to go so far just to prove yourself, or you don't have to try so hard to get the most effect. You might find a few interesting quantum links during this year. I feel it's probably important to watch the introduction in this video, so have a look at the collective insights first, maybe, before watching your video, just to get a good scheme on things, just to understand. It is a very nice year to take things slow, to watch people run around, and to see people doing everything everywhere. You know, somebody might fall in love, somebody might try to sell you Jesus, you know, or Buddha, or Allah. You know, another person might want to give you a lot of advice about something that you don't even understand or really need to understand. You might have people like me talking about things that you don't even have to think about. You might have a lot of different things happening around you. And there might be a feeling, Virgo, where you're sort of like standing there in a group of people and you're looking around and you're not sure which way to go. That's okay, stay there. This is the perfect thing. In times of rupture, like in times of craziness, especially when you feel like it's too much, resist from this urge to rush around and seeing what's up and what you can do as well. You know, so somebody's doing something, building something, and you're trying to help them build, but then it turns out what they built is not worthy of structure. You know, you can run away with somebody who threatens that they will leave if you don't go with them, and then when you're on the other side, you'll see that they didn't want you there. You know what I mean? So things will go fast. People will walk around. People will do crazy things during this year. It's a social dog year. It is very condensing for society. It's very condensing for culture, trend, and business. But if you're walking around us and you're kind of feeling like, whoa, that's not true, this isn't true. If you're one in the rat race, you're not heard. So mainly consider this. If you're running and you're running around, like say with a sign or some kind of like a symbol or a system, and you're trying to make us understand, or you might even want to try to push us over and look, stop you guys, like look at this. Sometimes you're not heard. And understand that you don't have to do a lot to be yourself, Virgo. You really don't. You can just sort of take time, meditate, and from this really beautiful sense of grace, from this really beautiful standstill, from this really beautiful standpoint, you can reflect us back at ourselves very, very well. So for example, if you wanted to start a project for yourself, and this might not be anything like anybody else is doing, this might be a nature documentary where everybody from your film school is doing drama, you know. You might be starting to sing opera where everybody is not listening to opera, it seems. Whatever you have in mind, Virgo, during this time is real, but it's got to be yours, and it's got to come from a really nice place of stillness and a place of curiosity. So, you know, the wonder of a child, you know, sitting there watching a bug crawl on the leaf, that is perfect. So if you still have these moments of innocence where you're just watching people and you're not sure what it all means, but you're sort of feeling really open-hearted and kind of like taken back by the beauty of the world, or you're not sure how to show your charisma, don't try. So for example, okay, you can really be on trend this year. You can be beyond trend. You can become somebody totally new for yourself. But if you are trying to be the same drum as other people, if you are seeing that other people have certain types of voices and you're a singer and you're trying to imitate them, and especially if you are somehow prodded into trying to do better than them, you're just stepping in line. You're just another brick in the wall. And this means to me that creatives, especially Virgo creatives who are doing something really cutting edge, if you guys compete and if you're looking to trend and if you're looking to other people to confirm to you who you aren't. And this is very easy to try and do your own thing, but not believe it so much that you end up just working for a company all your life. Or trying to become a graphic designer when really at heart you're an artist, you're a street artist, you know. Definitely have a look at how you're trying to contribute to somebody else's business without having a business of your own. So Virgos, in 2018 the rat race is on for many, and the systems are overloading for us. And then if you overload, that's a lot of density. So if you can take a few steps back, there are so many Virgos that have woken up to this really beautiful childish purity and this incredible welcoming universal design of somebody who is just looking at life with open eyes. If you found a lot of innocence and purity in you, you might see that 2018 passes you by, you won't even know what happened. And that's not so good, because also you have to see yourself during this year like nobody else. So Virgos, if you are creative or you are suddenly speaking out or you're writing and you're finally starting to structure your relationships with more worth, and you're trying to see who you are and you're trying to really soul search, wow, truly this is a nice year. But if you're just kind of like zoning out and you're seeing other people try and you just zone out and you say, it's not about me, this is about you, or you're trying to disconnect from us so much that you barely exist, without really giving any voice to the inner spirit, that's difficult. So some people say it's the inner child. I won't say it's the inner child. I feel it is the soul, the inner soul, and how it wants to take things forward. So incredible time for meditation, meditative Zen craft, doing things very slowly, giving people perhaps a lot as well, a lot of your time, but also starting to see the true inner beauty of the world. I feel that this is a very, very restructuring year. It could be almost like restructuring on a molecular level, as I feel that you've got something about you, Virgo, that is a miracle. And if you don't consider yourself sincerely, and if you're not really observing life and you're not really nurtured by the moment that you're having, you might find that your gush or your need for perfection or your need for having things just so can sometimes be a big stick in your wheels. And then eventually, when you come to the end of 2018, actually when you come to March 2019, which is when the year really rolls over, you might ask, what did I do it for? And who really respects me? Who respects my work? So no matter how much you do, it is still the same result. So this is a very interesting thing. You don't have to sit in front of the computer your whole life. The main quantum component here this year is to get it right inside, not on the outside. Sometimes during this type of energy, you might already noticed it, it is not the fussing that gets the gold star, and neither does the best idea in a group make it. Sometimes it's not about the perfection or the perfect man or woman. It's not about the perfect anything. If you can imagine, sometimes if you are trying so hard to be the perfect partner for another, very often they will choose something else to do or somebody else to take their attention off you. So it is not about the strain of getting the perfect anything. It is not about scrutinizing yourself over who you've come to be. It is just about trust. It is about open eyes. It is about open ears to the world. 2018, I feel, will teach you and give you a lot if you just, wow, I didn't really see this before. Wow, I didn't see this coming. Wow, what an interesting reaction. Like, say you're painting, different colors are coming through the paper as if by themselves. Interesting wave to let things make themselves. And this is a quantum wave. So like, say you're starting a project, You just went to sleep and you had a download, you woke up, you know the answer to things, you know? Say, for example, you meet somebody in a dream, next 2 weeks, you think about that person perhaps, and you meet them on the street. You could have a quantum beginning out of nothing, Virgo. I feel you're very blessed this year. If you can, take time, sit still, feel and listen, because I feel a lot of you gets passed by. People don't appreciate sometimes a Virgo, don't respect them. If they're like a rabbit in a cage or like a bird in a cage, and if they're going about too fast. If you are, for example, an artist and you're obsessive, compulsive, you might find that perhaps as you let go and you try to draw with your left hand, if you're right-handed, vice versa, you might make something that to you looks ridiculous, but say, for example, a person who commissions artists, you know, who is choosing pieces for a gallery might come into your studio and say, I like the piece that you drew with your other hand. Or like say, wow, what is this? And you say, oh, that's just a stain from some tea that I spilled today. And they'll say, that is something that I'm very interested in. So you might actually find that something that is completely imperfect or doesn't make sense to you actually becomes the archetype or the landmark for your future. So have a look at happy accidents, synchronicities, and things that come from the past or the future. They just resonate with you. Soul searching, definitely, and giving up on a lot as well, Virgo. So giving up on chores, giving up on things, and giving up on things being just right. Can I feel elevate you through this dream in 2018? Thank you very much, and enjoy your beautiful year. Libra, fellow Libra Polina, talking to you about 2018. If you haven't seen the introduction, the collective introduction, have a look. But if you have seen, great, how are you? Okay, so you might feel a little bit unjustified. You might feel a little bit strange, or you might feel disconnected. You might have tried to be somebody for someone. You might have tried, you know, and you see that it didn't pay off, or you might see that whatever you've done wrong, people thought was really good, and whatever you've done right, people didn't understand. You could also be in a situation by the end of this year, truly, where you don't actually understand where your loyalties are, like who's loyal to you, what is loyal, and what at all is there for you that's real. And that's quite okay, as long as you don't dwell on it and you don't stick your whole reality out of, well, I can just be bad, you know, I can just do whatever I want, you know, I can say make money under the table and I don't worry about my future because who gives, you know. So the feeling of who gives can be very strong for us Libras if we're not really able to see the cosmic joke. Okay, 2018 deems you more free than you used to. You might have a person next to you that really doesn't care about which way you swing, what you do every day. And you might think that they don't care, but they actually are respecting you so much, they're not policing you. But you might feel like they are in themselves not loving. Or you might have a project that you're doing that gives you ample amount of money for something that you thought you could have done when you were 12. Like say you're doing a project and it's so easy, but say your masterpiece is standing there, nobody's buying your masterpiece. Like kind of seeing the irony or the joke of life. There's something that took you absolutely no time and you had no care about wins and people can see it. And then somebody probably like comes along and ruins something, even like a relationship or a situation that you've been building and you've been like crying over and took such a long time to create. Libras have to believe it, that they are not really made to do a lot. You are the 7th house. You are the out. Libra is the anal tract. Libra is sweat. Libra is basically ridding the body of toxins. Libra is release. So you might find it's very interesting to see that you never really needed to do that much to be accepted. For some of you guys, it might be almost distorting how little you had to do for anything. You might find that you fought for many years to get, for example, certain custody. You might have fought for your rights. You might have made a lot of hullabaloo about something. You might have written many books. You might have made many things. And you might see that those things don't stand But the things that do stand are the ones that took you no time and that were happy accidents, or things that never really carried you forward before. You know, you might find an old recording of your work. You might find something that you never wore that makes a good impression. You might find that with people where you really cared and you really tried, you got a closed door, but then people who are in a totally different community have open ears, open eyes, and only open doors, where you've done nothing and you think, how can these people like me, or how can this person adore me when they're nothing like me, you think? Or like, they haven't really seen my life, they don't know my progress. Like, what are they really giving me a gold star for? Like, what are you guys doing? Like, what are you guys seeing in me? Like, why don't you guys see what I've done, say, last 2 or 3 years? That was my blood, sweat, and tears. Why are you suddenly giving me so much leeway with things that I do not feel really are me? So if you are somebody who has been on the go and you've created a lot in your life and you really tried, you might want to relax and you might want to relate. If you're somebody that has really, really, really overdone it, over-contributed, you've been there for your grandparents, you've been there for your parents, you've bore children, you've been there for everybody, and you really, really wanted to take it to the limit and you started your own business or you built your own house, really, it's a great year to basically alleviate everything and just to completely release and just be like, I'm done. Especially if you're somebody who, for some reason, has created a lot of something, because Libra is the anal tract. So if you've accumulated a lot of something, you know what I mean? Say you've written a lot of music, you've done a lot of art. For many of us Libras, it's an interesting way out during 2018. You can just be pleased. You can just be accepted. Somebody can just sign you to a record label for just that one song, and none of your previous songs get seen. It's a very, very fascinating time where you didn't really have to confuse anybody. You didn't really have to do the little dance. You didn't have to sit a certain way or be a certain type of person. You didn't have to try so hard. And for this reason, sometimes Libras can feel unbelievable resentment because most of us, to some degree, can't let go. There's something we can't let go of. But it's really interesting, you know, if you let go, can you imagine, say, for example, you're sitting by the pool somewhere, just fantasizing about life, and you're doing absolutely nothing, you know, and this is like first day of your holidays and you already feel guilty for taking time off, and then you meet somebody who is a very developed producer who's looking for somebody like you to feature in their film or wants to write a story based on something like your life, you know. Quirky things can happen during this time. It's like when you're relaxing and you completely have let go, like you don't care, you really, really don't, like to the point where you're not sure how to start something. You know, you're sitting there and you're completely stuck, and perhaps you have very, very lazy year. And if you can imagine, the laziness pays off. The feeling of not wanting to work too hard pays off. The energy of being a mother to everyone without ever having a child. You know, the feeling of never having to be there really just to watch people when you want to. You can become a very desired and a very welcomed, almost like an art installation piece at a party or in a group or a company. You can get hired to do nothing. Oh my gosh, Libra, you can get hired to do nothing. And if you have been noticing, perhaps there's already trends of that happening. Like, for example, if you've got clients and they come in for Reiki sessions, you might notice that the Reiki session never begins. They just want to talk to you about their mother, about their grandmother. They just want to hold your hand, look into your eyes for nothing. And then they walk away and the Reiki session never took place. So for a lot of us Libras, we have to come to terms with the fact that we don't have to do anything anymore for many of us. We are in a state of retirement here, potentially, as I'm feeling that many of us can actually retire. Many Libras can actually make money out of nothing. Many of us Libras can suddenly get inheritance, or perhaps sell something that we've had around the house for a really long time that turns out to be an antique, which, you know, feeds us for a long time. We could be witnessed or discovered for something that's always been there and has never really changed. And we didn't have to dress up in any way. We didn't have to contort in any way. It's just that, like, Libras have a really nice quantum shift here this year, especially in September, October. They work so hard. And they've tried so many different avenues, and they met so many different people, and they really wanted to serve another, especially for those of us who have really worn ourselves thin with something. In 2018, you might see the irony and the strange detachment from life when you understand that you didn't have to do half the things you did, and you just had to be perfectly you. You just had to be perfect as you. Another thing that I feel in 2018 is money comes really easily out of nowhere, but if you are how can I say, you're in fear of money, or you're in fear of addiction to money, or you're in fear of crazy things happening when people have a lot of money, or you have some kind of label or justification for not having money or having money, if you're still like really guilty or really weird about acceptance, they can pass you by. It can take more than you're willing to give. So have a look if you are perhaps giving more without receiving, if you're afraid of being in the spotlight, if you've got a fear of winning the lottery, if you've got a fear of people with money. Don't fear money. Don't fear easy, Libra. Like, if you can really sort yourself out before March, see that you've done it. Even if you haven't done it, you haven't quite believed in yourself, by the end of this transit, by February 2018, you should have a nice feeling about who you were and who you are, like, as a complete person, despite culture, despite language, despite everything. And perhaps 2018 will give you things basically for free. So have a look at how you can be more allowing for those types of things to happen, and see what joy it is just to become in the moment, just to surrender, and just to examine yourself as you bloom. Thank you very much, Libra. Have a wonderful 2018. Hello, beautiful Scorpio. Thank you so much for joining me. Wow, what a ride 2017 was, and it's not over till March, obviously, because that is when we go into Aries and when we go out of Pisces. So if you really want to know more, please have a look at the introduction. I've described all the common trends, or the collective trends for the year, especially the beginning of 2018, so people don't get confused as to when is the beginning, because right now it is not. Today is the day before Christmas Day, and it is definitely not a beginning till March. So have a look at the collective broadcast if you like, and we'll get started with you. Okay, so Scorpio can't decide in 2018 what they want. This is difficult. Some of us Scorpios will wear, you know, the underpants on the outside and the capes, you know, and we'll start ravishing people. For those of us who have not had enough attention all our lives, or felt suppressed or subdued, or still hold a grudge, there will be a few Scorpios that are taking advantage of collective need for mystery and magic and mindlessness as well. So mindless entertainment, TV, media, being crazy, being the freak. A lot of Scorpios, I feel, will start becoming very arrogant and using people's docile energy to become strong. But for some of us Scorpios, it's not really a thing. And for a lot of Scorpios, nurture of oneself, or having that inner hug, or that inner joining within, or like that inner strength, has never been an issue. So if you're a strong Scorpio, you probably don't really like to show off anymore. You probably don't really care to sit around people who listen to you with open jaws and open eyes. You probably don't really feel that enticed by a society that really wants to cherish you too much, or that really wants to like kiss your feet. You probably don't actually really care for people who really take the time, or take way too much out of their day just to see you and give to you. And if you're a healthy Scorpio, you might not even notice, but you're actually becoming one of those people that's really kind of shy. You're really kind of shy. So by the end of the previous transit, by the end of March 2017, you might see a shyness developing in you, and that which once was a rah, why, who, that becomes a subdued trickling. It's almost like instead of the oceanic wave, we're getting a really nice trickle of a river, which is really beautiful for you, I feel, Scorpio. Another thing for yourself in 2018 is you might actually find yourself in great demand for your shyness and your stability. So if you're somebody who's a Scorpio and other people can't get your sign right, you know, it's like they ask you who you are and you say yes, and they'll say, oh, you're a Capricorn, you're a Virgo, you're a Cancer, but no. This is a really beautiful, I feel, fact for a lot of Scorpios. So we're becoming and a more enlightened, becoming a lot more rhythmic with others. We're becoming a lot more servicing with others. We're becoming a lot more able to dance a dance with another person, to listen to another person, to give them credit and to give them time. So definitely, if you're somebody who is unified with others and you feel already really crisp and clean within yourself, and you're feeling like really ready to learn from another person and seeing what they have to show you, you're in the win. You're in the win, hands down. So if by the end of 2017 or by the end of March 2018, you're just witnessing yourself suddenly bloom and flower and kind of like almost become like a rose opening, ready to receive knowledge from another person. You've done the thing. You've done the thing, Scorpio, and you might have ascended a lot further than you have before, because we don't usually recognize ourselves at our best when we are in that state, but that's where it is. That's where it's at, you guys. So well done for those Scorpios that are already opening up like an open book, you know, that want to hear and see from another person. They want to be more contained, or perhaps they want to be more loved or more understood, or in a sense more connected to somebody as a counterpart, or more connected to somebody as a balancing energy. Another few things about 2018 is Scorpios are not going to learn a lot if they're not wanting to be wanted somewhere. So for example, if you are somebody who pushes yourself into the situation where people can't define you, people don't know who you are, if people are scared of you, people are not sure about you, and you keep on, for example, pushing yourself into uncompatible situations because you're finding that there's something very safe and kind of even sorry about you, and you want to be in situations where people still have that freakish reaction to you, like a no straight away as soon as they see you. Some of us can get really addicted to being the martyr or the person that doesn't really get the go. And if you are somebody who continuously throughout 2018 and beyond a little bit till March 2019, maybe even beyond that, as we go into a family year next, pushes yourself into situations where you're just not a concern for people. They don't know why you've come in. They have no idea what you're doing there. They have no respect. They have no situation to accommodate you. There is no free space. If you're in situations like that, you haven't been called, but you just like inject yourself into situations where you yourself are not wanted, especially dangerous situations. If you suddenly wanted to be a hero, if you suddenly want to be a fireman, if you suddenly want to just rip your shirt open and climb up, and try to try to do things that are out of character. Usually, if you are trying to be a hero, it is important to see why, because for many Scorpios, it is a very nurturing time. Accept, seriously, accept that you're cuddly and cute. Accept, Scorpio, that sometimes during these types of years, you just want it everywhere. Accept that sometimes during this type of year, the poster, your poster gets plastered over other posters, meaning, like, say if you're in a band, before you were kind of like not seen or not popular, and suddenly like you have this really goofy crowd that follows you around. Just accept it. Maybe it's not the kids that you wanted, maybe it's not the types of people you were sort of presumably entertaining before. You might find that your crowd gets really mellow. You might find that the people around you that follow you are like babies, like with open eyes and beautiful hearts. You might see that you're attracting suddenly the type of man or woman who is like completely just like on a wholesome side, from a wholesome home, just loves you for who you are. And if you are feeling like, no, I will destroy you, I am Scorpio, like I am the deep dark secret of the world, this is not so good for you. So sometimes we get it easy. Sometimes Scorpios, it's almost like the leash is off and you can just wander anywhere you want and everybody wants to give you a pat and a cuddle, everybody's open to you, everybody's admiring you, everybody wants to see you shine, they want to know your name, they want to know, you know, where you're from, things like that. It's a beautiful time to let go. For traveling kind of situations where you're walking about, do not waste this year, how can I say, on doing really extreme stuff. This is because it's a beautiful year to manifest yourself a family, a home, a nice playground, a nice situation, a feeling where you wanted, a feeling where you are, you know, still, how can I say, remembered after you leave, a feeling where people call you up, ask you if you're all right, did you get home safe? Don't laugh in the face of those people that are doing that, because sometimes what happens is that we get this type of year where people are turning around and loving us like, you know, like we're the most beautiful person ever. And then they turn around and they don't want us there if we are not able to connect the dots and see that it's a blessing. And sometimes we can be blamed for being toxic people, Scorpios, if we can't accept when people are actually nice to us and they're actually giving to us a lot. So without too much appreciation, I feel this year is worthless. So appreciate, so gratitude for your mother, gratitude for your father, gratitude to your boss, gratitude to your co-workers for being there and just being there with open eyes. Another thing for you guys is definitely to not teach a lot if you don't quite want to do it. Like, usually Scorpio likes the situation where they're teaching somebody or initiating somebody. You know, they sometimes like to be the crazy, scary, queer, weird, you know, mindful and twisting person, like where they twist someone's mind and show them different dimensions of life. But during this time, actually, it is really nice to stay safe. 2018 is so nice to stay safe and to stay that type of energy which is balanced and just goes, well, what do you think? Like, what else do you know? Like, what do you think I should do? Like, do you think I got it right? Like, how are you feeling? If you are somebody who can balance and does not shun other people's advice, you are really priceless. So with positions, with money, with income, with situations of luck, with situations of love, with situations of living, like home situations, any type of everything. You can, home decor, you know, like rejuvenation of your looks, like even plastic surgery for some people, totally new life, totally new look, a total rebirth of yourself is very nice. If you can ask somebody else, hey man, what do you think? Having other practitioners involved, if you do like them, and also not having too much resistance to change will lead you onto a gold mine of a year. Thank you very much, and I hope you have a beautiful 2018. Sagittarius is usually very well off in a dog year. So if you're not sure what I'm talking about, have a look at the intro, at the collective insights down there. There is a list and a caption below, so have a look at the collective insights at the beginning of the video if you're not sure what I'm talking about when I'm saying dog year. But if you've watched it already, here it is. So Sagittarius, you're not totally right about some things during 2018. This is an interesting frequency. When you are usually the right one for the job, sometimes you're not. When you are usually the right one for the situation, sometimes you might not be, and that's not okay to huff and puff about. So for some Sagittarius, I feel you might not be picked for the same parts. Like the has-been syndrome can kick in. So for example, your music used to sell, and this year you might find that there is somebody else that people are watching or buying music from. Or for example, you are not usually the person that gets shunned for like a certain type of photo shoot or like certain type of casting, and then you're finding that somebody else is there on the heels of your feet, you know, they're already there before you and they get casted first. It's not okay to worry about it, but it is very much all right to give them advice. This is an interesting thing. This is a quantum thing for you guys. If you're, for example, somebody who feels that there is competition and that you are no longer it, or there is something standing in the zone or in the way of where you usually prefer to see yourself, let it go, because you're worthy of many more things than that. Give these people that are replacing you in any situation more. point where, for example, you feel replaced by your spouse, or there is some kind of a situation where you are not needed or you feel like you're not wanted, let them be. And perhaps you'll see that there is another person there in the doorway already before you've even left or even consolidated anything. Have them for a cup of tea over and say, hey, you know, so do you want to know more about him or her? Would you like me to give you some advice? Perfect story. Let other people carry on your previous stuff. It's interesting to see yourself disappear from one type of energy and walk into another. If you are somewhere usually and that place is closing down, great, you know, give the owner a tip. You know, if you're somewhere like you're in a house and the house is getting, for example, demolished and you're asked to leave, that's fine. Give extra and say thank you. Leave some flowers at the door. Do something. Why? Because you're not wanted there. You are open for a new opportunity, which is like a large energy that you might not see from a feeling of resentment. If you're carrying around resentment with you, you might not see it. So basically what you have to do is to stop fighting for things that are no longer your size. You've outgrown something, or you've been growing towards a different direction, or you have to change lanes. And if things are no longer available or no longer looking to you, you know, you do not need to worry and fight for the things that are no longer easy, especially if there's other people or other things standing in line. If there is another job suddenly for those people, or there is something else filling the space where you were, just be pleased with it and let it go, really. And not just let it go, give it something. Say thank you for taking my space if something is taking your space. A new thing is coming, and it is coming very fast. I feel that a lot of people in 2018 with any configuration might see that things get swapped over, and this has been going for a few months now already. One thing comes out, another thing comes in, almost automatically. Like this person says no, this person says yes, and one day we can switch sides, we can switch numbers, we can switch ideas, we can switch our roles. And this is really important for you to see, perhaps, Sagittarius, that sometimes for certain people, in certain jobs and certain situations, you are not as important as the role. So these people might want the role filled, but they don't care who it is. And sometimes they'll choose something that's better to work with, meaning occasionally during this type of year, somebody who's easier to work with, or somebody who's not so confronting or confusing. And as you've got a lot going on, this can create loss or the feeling of separation, but you should not feel lost ever. Sagittarius, perfect energy for this year is you walking towards or into something else straight away. And it is not wrong. So for example, if you walk out of one relationship and suddenly someone else is ready for you, and they've been there for a while, or you've known them for a while, they've been a friend, or even somebody that you've met before through some kind of means, and they're open and they're ready, sometimes it's not so bad to walk out of one thing and into another, unless you want to wait, which is even better. So if you're a master of time and you can take your time and you're not worried, say not from one job to another job straight away. If you want to take some time, take some peace, perhaps mull it over in your mind, do some yoga, you know, connect, relax, and you might actually find that on the other side you might not apply for the same type of jobs. You might go somewhere deeper and more interesting for yourself, or you might do something much easier, much quirkier that pays a lot more. So have a look. So for some of you guys, especially if you've got any type of dependency, it is possible to come out of one thing, go into another thing straight away. But I would definitely connect the dots further and say, for example, if a situation is done and you're not ready to let it go, especially you didn't see it coming, it is really nice to take some time, take a few deep breaths, maybe take a week off as well. So have a look if you can create a grounding where you can take some time off in case you're not happy with what happened so much that you're not functioning. And then when you are safe and sound and you've processed what you had to process, take the leap. but it should be easy. I feel especially, this is a quantum thing, when you come over to your ex-partner's new husband, you know, when you come over to your ex-work that fired you, and you bring flowers, and you bring candy, and you say, thank you for being in my life, and you're saying it with your heart, and you felt it, and you said, thank you, you know, that's cool, thank you for releasing me, thank you for the bond and for the release, you might see that very, very quickly, a lot quicker than usual, a new person, a new opportunity, a new creative cycle comes in. Like, it's just scary. Another new thing for you guys is commitment issues. Commitment issues. There should not be an issue with it because you should not be committing to things that are not interesting for you already. So with anything to do with commitment issues, people calling you up for not being committed somewhere, people calling up for not making enough time, have a look at that. Perhaps you're not committing. And if you aren't committing, say you are a volunteer and you don't really show up half the time, perhaps you shouldn't be there, and that's okay. If you are not there and not here, if you're kind of not even on the fence, you're kind of in here and out there, you sort of stuffing around a little bit and you can't really find it within you to really make a call which way you're going, don't sit there, and perhaps option number 3 will come in. Maybe pray for it. Very nice time for prayer, very nice time for meditative cycles, you know, for mantras, for singing. All the best things really happen in the ether during this time. So you might find that you no longer have to worry and manifest things by hand. So what I mean is, say for example, if you lost a job and straight away okay, I'm gonna go buy the newspaper and have a look, at what's available. I'm gonna go online and have a look at what's available. That's not going to necessarily work this year. I feel sometimes the best is to pray or to consider other guiding forces and perhaps people that talk to you, like people that talk to you out of nowhere or people that you just met have got a key for you to apply to your life that is much better and more equipped to giving you something later. So you might actually find somebody else comes in as if a prayer has been answered and they give you something that before you didn't know existed. So count on reality to give you things that before you didn't think were possible. So getting rid of cancer, like getting rid of like any kind of disease, any kind of situations in life, toxic people, toxic experiences, toxic realities, any kind of toxic things is possible with prayer and a bit of heart, really, as it usually is anyway. So have a look, Sagittarius, as to how you can open up to opportunity and how you can perhaps not stagnate in the same situations. And if something is purging you out of its system, if somebody's saying goodbye, if the door is closing, another will be open, and celebrate it because it's usually a much higher grade. It's a much, much bigger picture for you. So thank you very much, Sagittarius. I hope you had fun. Enjoy 2018 and I'll see you next time. Bye. Oh my gosh, Capricorn. You might want to receive a lot more during this time because I'm feeling like a lot is coming your way and everything's useful, and all things that you hear and you feel and you perceive might be used for you or they might be used against you. So be very careful about what comes in sensory wise, materials that you're using for anything that you're building or creating, any people that are coming through. It is all material for use. Everything that you are experiencing in this reality in 2018 might not be exactly what you wanted, but it is a very interesting idea to start something new. So you've got something new on the go. I feel that everything that's given to you during this year is going to perhaps affect you in a very, very strong way later if you don't understand it. So anything you hear, all the people that are coming through, every gift from reality, any synchronicity from the universe, consider it, really listen in and feel. Another thing is, if you haven't watched the collective insights at the beginning of the video, that's fine. I would probably suggest you do, but I'll just say really quick. The year doesn't begin truly till the 21st of March. And I know you probably don't trust it because you are Capricorn. We're celebrating the new year and you. But it doesn't quite start till March. So before March, this might not be the case. So before March, you might have here and there possibilities where they used to be and things that are still going strong and building. But after March, you might see an acceleration of your heart, acceleration of your freedom, acceleration of your being, like a new brightness in the eyes and the new intensity come through you. And you might have to start over. You might have to start something new. I'm feeling the Capricorns by April, May have to do a little bit of research and start really looking at where they would like to be in the next few years. I feel that it's the beginning of a bright new cycle for many, and it doesn't have to be a freaky showdown. It does not have to be freaky. It doesn't have to be complex. But it feels to me that other people want you to, or the collective, or the people around you, start something totally nurturing, unusual for yourself, and totally creative, just as you might have liked to experience in your childhood. So for example, if you're locked up in your 20s, and after university you decided to be a great big gold digger, or you wanted to be somebody who really makes a lot of money without taking a lot of heart into consideration, that's likely to change. And especially if before you've decided to become really diligent and at the same time neglectful of your own soul, which sometimes happens with Capricorns, in the childhood, early childhood, you might have already wanted to do something really peaceful and really free, because quite a lot of you guys have a really beautiful heart and a really beautiful hookup to the collective needs. So before the year maybe 10, before you were 10, you might have already seen a lot of hope for the future, and these hopes can come through and have a fertile ground to shine again. So for example, if you wanted world peace, if you wanted to commit to your elders, if you wanted to create a beautiful garden for children when you were 10 years old or something like that, this can sometimes come back during the year like this. So old dreams sometimes don't leave you alone, and this is not because they are wrong, and this is not because it's a big guilt trip as to who you are and how far you've climbed. Occasionally Capricorns do not quite get what they want to do. They think that they've got to do because it's demand, and they think they've got to make money like this, or they've got to make a business, or they've got to impress somebody. And sometimes they can lose parts of themselves by doing business with people that they don't want to know, or doing things that they don't really want to do. And this type of year is really clearing for anybody with a really strong Saturnian energy, and also Capricorns and Stellans and Moons in Capricorn as well, where we Capricorns, we get to see how much we've missed out on by trusting others to know for us what is needed. And it is actually a very interesting time to really sit with yourself and think about what you wanted when you were 3 years old, 4 years old. Ask your mom. Perhaps, she won't tell you. Maybe your family have forgotten as well. But think about the different pictures you used to draw, the things you used to dream about. Maybe there was a special type of theme or a special type of union with spirit that you've had when you were a kid that you did not recreate, that you forgot. So the inner child, the feeling of innocence can sometimes come through really strong during this time. So for some Capricorns, there can be infantility, wanting to be held, wanting to be loved, and wanting to have all the people kind of in a cuddle puddle with you. If you've got these types of urges, unless your work has always been about silliness and non-conformity and people just cuddling and loving each other, if you have not had these urges before and you don't know where they're coming from, there is a chance you have to go into your childhood and pull out of your childhood something that you really want to continue later. So for example, if you loved whales and you wanted to do something for whales, make some of your company's profit go towards whale rescue or towards a marine center or something like that, to help other people be educated on certain types of things to do with whales. So you've got to, how can I say, put your reality together during this year, or have leeway, have space to turn your reality into something that resembles your true feelings and your true fearless nature that you had as a kid. One more thing about this year is people don't sometimes trust you when you're trying to wear your heart on the sleeve. With you, sometimes there can be this thing where you see that you've committed to a lot of things and you've done a lot of work, and sometimes you just want to be held. You just want to be held like a baby, and you want to forget about who you were and what you've done and what you committed to, or like who you've ever been. And this type of thing sometimes for you feels really organic and just obvious, but to another person it can be very weird and they can't understand why you've done this. So if you're in a situation where you're crying, or you putting your emotions first and you're wondering why this person isn't empathetic enough, especially if you're snapping at somebody. Like if you snap at somebody for not giving you the right romantic or emotional response, of not holding you and not providing you what you think they should provide, that is a sure tell sign that you've forgiven yourself too fast for losing bits of yourself, and you just want it all to be made better by creating an infantile experience again, and perhaps having another person as a parent or a guardian over you while you process your childhood issue, or while you're starting sort of to maybe conform to something new for yourself. So safety zones, safety nets, safety homes, safe things sometimes will birth a situation where the other person doesn't trust you or doesn't really feel the same. And especially if you are starting to attack them or reject them because they're not giving you the right response, occasionally that can bring to a lot of lust, desire, despair, separation, and all things like that. We've got Jupiter in your friend zone. I mean, it's really booming, but you have to, I feel, stay practical, stick yourself together out of what you know. So the vulnerable and the intimidatingly beautiful side of you is coming through, Capricorn. I feel that you are somebody with a beauty like no other during this time. You have a very beautiful fragility about you, even though perhaps people have never really seen you as a total self. People have maybe never really totally respected or totally really understood what you were on about or what your stuff was about. During this time, it's really nice to let it out through work and through commitments, and perhaps trying to create new structures or build new possibilities, or trying to create new ways of using your intellectual connectivity and at the same time your childhood memories or your childhood connection to source and to all that you were through space and time, because very likely a Capricorn will know exactly who they are and what they're about at a very early age anyway. So having a look at you, having a look at what you dreamt about as a child, having a look at why you're still trying to be somebody else. If there is a phenomena where you're fighting yourself inside yourself, one part wants to be a famous rock star, another part of you just wants to start a little eco village, and you're not sure which way is which, have a look at which way you were when you were a kid and try to match it up to that, or to have some kind of perhaps consideration for what's also needed in the world. What's also needed in the world. So sometimes you might want to see what other people are reflecting about. Have a look. And this is what I started your prognos with. Synchronicity, hearing, feeling, seeing, understanding. What catches your eye? What is in the universe around you? What are the people around you talking about? What do they want? And you might, for example, in 1 week, meet 4 or 5 different people, and they're all talking about organics, organic products, and how difficult it is to eat organic, for example. And then you might find that when you were little, you used to love picking apples off the tree, you used to love sitting in the garden, looking at the birds and bees, you used to love getting your hands dirty in the mud, and you might want to create perhaps something like that later, or perhaps sponsor or be part of an organics farm or organic shop, something like that. But there will be certain clues during this year that come through us people unconsciously that are totally synchronistic to your purpose. So have a look at that, Capricorn, and I hope that 2018 treats you well. Thank you. Hello, gorgeous, creative, and beauteous. Whoa, Aquarius. Mind your own stuff. Mind your own stuff. If you're not sure about the main trends and what I mean by the new year, because when I say really new year, it's from the 21st of March 2018, not from the 1st of Jan, because we're swinging into Aries. Not now, so it's not now. But if you want, you can have a look. I mean, you might be very impatient, so you don't really want to, but I would really suggest having a look at collective insights first, and then watching this video for yourself. Okay, so if you've done that, Aquarius, you're not wanted where you think you're wanted. This is a really hard thing. There is an opportunity opening and people are like puppies on their backs. Scratch my belly, scratch my belly. So the thing is, you are wanted and you are probably not willing to be wanted. I feel that a lot of Aquarian people have something or someone opening up to them like an open door, and it is just all there, and it's whatever, it's like a whatever you can eat, all you can eat buffet. There is an unlimited source of something. I feel all Aquarians have it sometimes in their life, but this time it is for real, as we're on a dog year. And this is an incredible part of this scheme, is that people will open to you like this. Watch who they are. This is so easy. For me, it is incredibly easy. Watch who they are. When you talk to somebody, when somebody approaches you, when you're on social media, anywhere at all, any type of people situations, who's like this? Who is the person that leans in when you're talking? You know, who invites you somewhere? Where are you wanted? Go to those things and it's okay. But sometimes Aquarius does not like that. Sometimes they go, well, you know, you guys didn't know who I was last year, and this year you won't know me either, okay? So have a look at who protrudes, and what sucks you in, especially with collectives, especially with friends, especially with any kind of networking, any kind of business, any kind of companies that are recruiting you. Anything to do with people is really good. If you, however, are sometimes regretful and strange about who has said no before, and this is something a lot of people with Aquarian influence do, if you're regretful and you're just sitting there sulking about your ex, or you're sulking about that company that didn't give you the time of day, forget it, because opportunities will be lost. Don't sulk anymore, Aquarius. Don't sulk about the people that you've tried to have fun with and they didn't understand, and the people that rejected your business idea, especially global things. You know, like say if you think over and over and over without doing very much, especially about say human rights, you're thinking about the refugee crisis, you're writing about, you're dreaming about it, you're not putting anything together for other people to help themselves. You're just like, it's your heartache, you know, it's like it's your important place. But there's nobody that is benefiting from it and nobody gets to see it. That is dark. So have a look at yourself, Aquarius, how you can show up, and how you can be completely translucent, see-through, and totally there in person. What other types of dreams that are beckoning you? And they're not inside like, oh, I feel that maybe I should like turn up at the cemetery and like find the graves. No, nothing dark, nothing to do with death, nothing to do with past gone things. Lovers, you know, my dad never loved me, my mother never cared. Anything to do like that with Aquarius is like, it just breaks your reality and it pulls it apart. So have a look how you can see who's there. If you're not sure, put some statuses on social media, see who responds, see who replies, what are the types of people that want you there. So when you are somebody who is unprepared for this, occasionally you might get shocked. And this is sometimes what happens with any Aquarian influence. This is funny. And anybody with any Aquarian, like a lot of Aquarian stuff, gets this. Somebody emails you, talks to you, you know, like leaves a message on your phone, you might go, no. And the reason for this is sometimes you don't want things easy, Aquarius, and sometimes it is more important when your ex leaves you a little message, you know, happy Christmas, instead of who you actually are resembled in another person. You might not want to be around people that are actually at the door lining up. You might not want to be in a situation where you're praised. You might not want to be the it girl yet, or you might not actually have enough how can I say, freedom and flow with people that believe in you, especially if they come from really, upmarket, not upmarket, but like high up, high frequency or high manifestation grid situations. You know, you might suddenly consider, oh wow, look, I've got free investors, but I don't want to call any of them back because today I'm sitting and thinking about my ex. You know, I'm thinking about my divorce today. And that's not easy because I feel that sometimes during times like this, Aquarius gets the lot. Aquarius gets the lot. It's almost like they can just like put their hands out and in their hands just falls everything. And that's not easy to see for us. And sometimes we can even get like rejectful. We can feel a strange vendetta against you, Aquarius. We can get angry or polarized by you. If you are not ready to accept how miraculous your life could be and how amazing these people are that are coming through, or how incredibly synchronistic everything freaking is. So Aquarius, please enjoy. So what you've got, who you've got lining up, what you've got open, what have you got people recommending. And sometimes you guys don't want to go where it's easy. You think it is more important to go where it's hard. And I have to say to you, there are certain types of Aquarians that can sometimes achieve a lot more when things are difficult for them. Who are these people? People who are harsh, people who are built for strong weather, people who have the feeling of like blistering cold on their face. There are some people that are like, you know, Edmund Hillary, I don't know, like people that want to go further and they're just stuck in that feeling, and that sometimes is great. But most of us, you know, people with any Aquarian influence, got to really like see, you know, look around, like what's going on. Sometimes it is nice to be in your own little world, Aquarius, but sometimes it's also nice to open up your eyes and go, okay, who's actually there? Who's actually there? Who's listening to my music? Or like, who's actually buying my books? Another thing with Aquarians is to recommend to yourself bigger, brighter, better ways to market or to create more of what works. That's difficult. That's difficult. So for some Aquarians, they're not really driven by lust for money. They're not driven by lust of popularity on the same scale as other people are. Perhaps they don't actually want to create the product that works. They want to create the first product in the world that does something that only a small number of people really care about, rather than having a really universal product. That's a really funny thing. But this is your time, Aquarians. You can really launch the big thing. You could be, you know, perfectly sound for the next 5 or 6 years if you just, it's almost like you know when a dog stills, and we are in the year of the dog 2018, and it smells the air and it goes towards where its nose is leading it. So follow your nose, but another way how to explain it is follow your senses, Aquarius. Like say you're in a situation and you've got like backed up, you know, emails from investors, or you've got something like, you know, a lot of friends calling you and you don't want to see them. Somehow you just go, oh, no. Follow your heart. That is linked to your senses as well. So link it to your senses, because sometimes Aquarius can go, I'll rip my shirt open. I will give you my last dollar. You know, I want to survive. I want to feel. I want to bleed. I want to give, you know, and they sometimes don't know what they're doing. So definitely just feel like with everybody that you have around you, all the people that are asking for you, all people that are wanting your name, your number, your information, your art, your time, everybody that wants you, have a look at who is there that makes a nice link to who you have been and where it works. Because occasionally we sometimes, you know, Aquarian people, Aquarian energy sometimes also gets people that don't quite belong, so they stick with us if we don't belong. But even with those people, it's fine. But it is about finding the dance with life without stepping on your own toes and without like bashing yourself against people or against walls or against doors that are closed, you know? Because sometimes Aquarian has to know, and this is a very little secret about Aquarians, that they're not the Lord, or, you know, they're not the center of things. They aren't the one, unique, only one that gets to sometimes open, you know, open things that have never been opened. Sometimes they have to let things that are closed be closed, because occasionally if you open certain things, it could be a can of worms. And this is another thing. For some Aquarians, it is an opening year. So for example, if you're somebody who's obsessing with your ex, or obsessing with an old story or old employment scheme, old things, old opportunities, and you don't want to take anything else on, and you don't trust the new, and you feel like you'll be gone, you know, oh, nobody trusts me, nobody understands. If you're somebody who's dwelling, it is actually really, really chaotic, because occasionally, especially you've got a lot of Pisces, you know, you've got a lot of Libra or Leo or something, you can actually put so much courage and feeling and even fear into not having that thing. Sometimes you can get it, but it will not serve you. So it's the irony. It's a really sad thing sometimes when this happens. For example, you really wanted somebody to be part of your life, but they had to go elsewhere because they weren't compatible with you, or they just didn't want to connect. And then you might be really, really, really in a lot of fear and a lot of lust and a lot of nervous, like, tension. You don't know what to do. You're not sure what you've done. You're not sure where they've gone. Like, you get really, really upset. And sometimes what happens is that is to prayer. That is as well a prayer. This type of person can either return themselves, or they can return as another person that has a lot in common with that person, or as like a similar archetype, and you can actually receive a lot less through it than if you just enjoyed your moment, let go of the past, and consider that sometimes nature knows best. Thank you very much, Aquarius. Don't resist the changes, and have a wonderful 2018. Hello, gorgeous Pisces. If you're not sure about New Year's and Christmas, and you're like, oh, what's going on? And if you're not sure what I'm talking about when I'm referring to the new year, have a look at the beginning of the video, because it talks about the true beginning of the year, which is March the 21st. So if you have watched the beginning of the video, I will now talk about you and your very special 2018. So Pisces doesn't know it, but they're in high velocity consciousness. They have cracked a few codes in 2017, and by 2018 March, they should probably have a really deepened feeling, or like a deepened emotional, almost like a crystalline grid, which just absorbs information like nothing anyone has ever seen. You might have the fingertips of an angel, like if you're doing a Reiki or massage, you might get a very good result. You might get very high frequency insight. Pisces might just break through matter. You might be able to tell everything, like you might be seeing things, you might really connect to a highly psychic and highly intuitive energy. You might also not, but there is in each Pisces something awakening that suggests that the future is upon us before the past has even been dissolved. You have a very interesting component for us, and if we are lucky enough to see a Pisces during this type of year, we will see that you see through something so deeply, and you perceive and you sense something so vastly that we don't really know what to do with ourselves. Occasionally during these types of years, somebody will just fall off the grid, somebody will come in, but things are a little bit quantum, meaning things just separate over one day. People come out of the ether for no reason. People develop themselves very quickly or very slowly. Things are unpredictable sometimes, because certain things are totally predictable. And this is hard to know about you, as you sometimes perhaps during these types of years start to really perceive the future and the past as one. You might completely almost like condescend other people, because you look at us, straight away you look, you can already see what we are. And you perhaps do not want to bother with even explaining why you just walk out of a party or why you walk out of someone's life. But consider this, is that something's been growing for a long time. I feel your perception and the changing frequency of your sign has been massive, and it's been imminent, and it's been prominent, and a lot of people could tell that you were perhaps delving somewhere that you shouldn't have delved, or you've been going around like certain energies, or you've been like feeling certain things that other people don't even know exist. And then when you go to 2018, you might see that this feeling of doom, or feeling of being unnurtured, or this feeling of moving house soon, or this feeling of having a baby next year, something cracks, and you might actually have to face what you've been feeling, dreaming, or connecting to underneath the feeling of disempowerment. So for example, you've been having any kind of consecutive dreams about certain types of situations, like you've been seeing the same disaster in your dream, and you haven't talked to anybody about it, you felt very powerless about it. You might see that it manifests. You had a feeling like every time you look at your sister that her belly is grown and she's pregnant. In 2018 you might see a baby born, you know what I mean? So things can be very choppy, things can be very crazy, and though you can sometimes predict a lot and give a lot of clarity and a huge amount of insight on certain things, especially if you're divinating, especially if you're doing, say, cards or astrology or something like that, on the other side there is a huge blind spot. But it's not just a blind spot, it's uncontrolled reality. So for example, you met somebody, you fell in love, you felt that it was a good thing, next 2 weeks they disappear. They don't hear your messages, their phone goes missing, they don't know, you know, what's what. They could even like completely like move countries or do something crazy. Like, it is unpredictable sometimes what happens on one side of reality, when on the other side of reality you already see it coming and it's just lining up. So how to deal with this type of scheme? I feel, Pisces, you've got to figure out what you want. because this is harsh, because you're the reality creator through dreams. So you're the unconscious master of all things and the highest sign in the zodiac wheel. Although, you know, if we look at it as a wheel, it's Sagittarius is the height, but you are the unconscious, you are the most evolved energy in the grid. And this means to me that perhaps you don't understand just how much power and focus you give, even when, especially during the time when you feel I'm useless, you know, I'm just small, I don't know anything, I don't understand. Don't play with yourself, Pisces. Sometimes you embed a dream, you create it, and then you wonder why it did or did not come true. You can sometimes pull a plug on certain things and accelerate other things. You can sometimes do a few more things than just that. You can sometimes create coincidences and synchronicities in your own life. Pisces, you're a quantum beast. The thing that I really like about you this year is that you might not show a lot of respect outwardly towards things. You might want to perhaps crash and burn and walk away from wealth or walk away from situations. You might walk out of jobs and you might walk through. But at the same time, I feel that you actually hold a lot of heart. I feel that you have an immense amount of forgiveness and grace to give another person during this type of vortex. And you also have got a lot of learning to do through not wanting to be with people because you don't feel that they are yet ready for you, or where you don't want to be ready for them just yet. And this is a crazy thing. You might meet somebody and you wonder, why did they disappear the next day? Even though I thought they were really cute, there would have, perhaps could have been, could have, an impulse in you that wanted to reject them before you accepted them. So have a look at your inner confusion and those inner voices that are telling you to perhaps manifest things, to disregard and to turn away from people when they're actually right for you, or to abolish whole schemes like jobs and income and all of these things for yourself and sometimes others who are close to you, if you aren't taking responsibility for your inner world. Pisces, your inner world during this year is intense for others as well. And occasionally what happens is when you are so expanded and you're blown up like a balloon to some degree and you have a lot of wisdom and a lot of teaching for another person and you're voyaging through really unusual circumstances perhaps, or really unusual fields of connection, we sometimes can't be on board with you. And this is not because we're not wanted sometimes even by you, not because you've created some kind of inner conclusion that we're not belonging with you. Sometimes people will actually drop off the radar because we can't consider ourselves close enough to your schemes because we're not yet released from our previous experiences. So what I mean is occasionally, yeah, it's not that we're not ready for you, it's just it is not yet time for us to be together. So you might find it very tormenting sometimes to see who isn't quite ready there and what is facing you. This might be very difficult or very different. So I feel that whatever is coming towards or not towards is your choice. And you might also want to consider that sometimes when you say, for example, had a bad impression on someone, or somebody didn't want to come back, or you know, a person discarded you, you feel, or a person turned away from your dream, occasionally it is not you totally, but a part of you didn't want them there. And it is like a weird thing of taking responsibility over your life experience. So I feel that 2018 for a lot of Pisces will be that. It's just about taking responsibility for kind of maybe perhaps knowing who you are, knowing how many dreams you can create, knowing how much power and voice you have in someone else's life, realizing and no longer identifying other people as the unique component that's missing or the unique energy that made you do this or made you do that. You have to start over, perhaps, if you are really stuck in a situation when you are blaming someone else, or you're living a life that you feel is not worthy, or a life that is pushed together by other people or is at the peril of others, because Pisces is the most powerful sign in the zodiac and it has got the dream time connection always. two realms that make things go, disappear, go on, change, shift. So you have more power than you perhaps even need sometimes, and that can be very concerning for us when you do not want to take advantage of this, or when you are taking this into consideration little, or when you become dissatisfied with certain parts of your life, and you break things up or you break things free without real purpose. And I'm sorry, I'm kind of speaking code, but it feels to me that a lot of Pisceans have to start seeing the purity of their life without knowing anything sometimes. And this is about total divine conditionless experience. So without having to have too much mind involved in their life, and not having too much consideration for money, work, power, conditions, relationships, not having too many buts, not too many buts, and just starting to feel. Because you might actually find when you are worthy and you're wanted, you might cry. And then perhaps when you're angry and you're distraught, your energy actually smiles. And there is a lot of chops and changes with Pisces where we don't know what you mean, because this year I feel is a shape-shifting experience for us, especially around you, unless you start taking full responsibility over your vibration and of your life. Thank you very much, Pisces. I hope you had a fun time, and I hope you enjoy your year. Thanks. Bye. Thank you. Thank you very much for watching. Jasmine, smells amazing. So thank you very much, everybody. I hope you had a fun trip, and if you like, once again, my almanacs will be on sale probably soon because they're for 2018 only. And have a look at my blog, have a look at my website, and maybe perhaps connect to me online. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, unfortunately. So yeah, thank you very much for being with me this year. If you'd like to subscribe, please do. If you'd like to like this video, I would appreciate it. And if you know somebody else who might like my stuff, let them know. Thanks a lot. Have a wonderful 2018. Thanks. Bye.